It's a new beginning. It's a new era. Salam Media.
The time is just gone 8:34 a.m. and we continue with the show this morning. And there was an opinion piece that was written by Yagyah Adams talking about the problems at Eskom and what the problems are, how they were created and fueled by the endless greed of a few people. And Yagyah Adams begs the question, why does Eskom need a commission of inquiry into its affairs? And he is a councillor. He is from the Cape Muslim Congress. Yagyah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you hear me?
Yes, in fact, you are breaking up slightly, but let's try and see how good we can get a signal. Now, you've written, obviously, this opinion piece, and where you say that we've been in lockdown for a year already. We know what the state of the economy is, and as a nation, we are in trouble at this point in time. And the key issue here is Eskom at a critical time like this, and we've heard that people obviously, or the country, being put into darkness once again with regard to load shedding.
Yes, I think the problem that we have is that there are people who are engaged in actual criminality.
I think
they are stealing from the public purse, they are stealing from the taxpayer, they are stealing from the ratepayer, and the difficulty is that there is no consequences because the theft is continuing, and it will continue until we see people actually going to jail. We see people having their properties and their vehicles confiscated. When we see people paying the price for criminality, when we see accountability, when we see responsible action from our government. And the difficulty that we have is we are not seeing that. We are seeing people appear in front of the Zondo Commission and telling stories upon stories, and there is no consequences, there is no result. And at the same time, while we are in this pandemic and in a lockdown, we are experiencing load shedding, and ordinary people that work hard for a living, people that pay their taxes, people that pay their rates, are suffering because a few people are making hundreds of millions of rand, and they are doing it shamelessly. They are doing it without consequence for their actions. They are doing it without any regret whatsoever, and they are basically showing us that they've got no respect for the ratepayer and the taxpayer, and something has to happen. Something has to begin to say to the rate and the taxpayer that this cannot continue. And I think that the beginning is for ordinary people to begin to say to the ruling authorities that we want to see responsible action. We want to see our money returned from Dubai and from India and from wherever they are hiding. We want to see those people extradited. We want to see those people in prison. We want to see something.
Yes, and obviously, you speak about these family elites, a handful of family elites, and this is the greed of people. And at the same time, you speak about oppression in your opinion piece. And if this is not oppressive, then what is it?
You see, the difficulty that we have is we have become so accustomed to global and localized corruption and nepotism and incompetence that we have forgotten the morality of accountability. That when you are given a responsibility, that you must practice that responsibility, whether you are a Jew, whether you are a Christian, whether you are a Muslim, whether you are a Buddhist, whatever faith it is that you follow. Every single religious scripture in the history of the world will tell you about moral accountability. And we're not talking about what you are doing in your personal life with your family. I'm talking about your moral accountability when you hold a position of office, when you have governance authority, that you must be accountable for the role that you play. So if you are the CFO, the chief financial officer of a huge organization, and you are the one who is supposed to be accountable, and people are stealing from that organization, then you must be responsible. You cannot sit there and sign checks and sign memos and sign off billions of rands to people and then say at the Zondo Commission, I didn't know. What are you doing in that office? You're earning 1 million, 2 million, 3, 4, 5 million rand a year, but you have no accountability. It only suggests that either one of a few things. Either you are grossly incompetent, number one. Number two, you were given the job because of your political or other connections. Number three, you are involved in the criminality and the corruption. And all three suggests that you must be held accountable. You cannot sit at the Zondo Commission and tell us that you don't know what happened because you were there, you signed the checks, you know where the money went. Someone has to be held accountable. Money doesn't disappear into air. Money goes somewhere and someone buys himself a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or a huge mansion somewhere on Durban's south coast, all at the expense of the rate and the taxpayer. The money didn't disappear into the air. It went somewhere. And if we are an accountable and responsible democracy, anyone can tell you the money goes into a bank account and then from there it gets dispersed. You can follow it up. An ordinary forensic accountant has the capacity to do that. What we are told is nobody knows anything. How is that possible that consultants, accountants, lawyers, forensic auditors, all that worked at Eskom, suddenly nobody knows anything, but the money is gone. And every single day, there are people across the Cape Flats, across Cape Town, across the country, who has to go to the shop, to the spaza shop, to the tuck shop and buy electricity. Some people have to pay 10, 20, 100, 1,000 rand on a regular basis to buy electricity. It is hard-earned money. These people have to work hard. And in the pandemic, as we all know, our economy is doing very badly. We are 50% unemployed. These people are suffering because they don't have a regular income and they have to spend the little money that they have on buying electricity only to be stolen because someone, somewhere in this country wants to drive a Lamborghini and a Ferrari. That cannot be under any circumstances by any religious scripture, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, you name it. It cannot be acceptable. And what we need to say as a society is no. We want accountability. We want to see who these people are. Why is it so difficult when the Americans could find Saddam Hussein hiding out in a little tunnel in somewhere in Iraq, and they could find Osama bin Laden hidden in a cave or wherever he was in Pakistan? Why can we not find out who stole this money at Eskom? Is it impossible?
I think what is important, and I think what you're raising here is a very, very important point in asking the question why we can't have somebody or find the people who are responsible and why we can't find the money. Is the question is there serious intent in the first place to even hold those accountable who are responsible for all this looting and theft?
I actually am of the opinion that very high up in our governance, there are people that have decided that let's start stealing at Eskom. So Eskom becomes like almost like a free grocery a facility or a free a supermarket for some, but not for others. There is perhaps 1% that have access to this free supermarket, where the rest of us must pay for everything that we buy in the supermarket, but 1% can walk in and they can take what they want, which means they are being protected. Because if you look at the rate at which Eskom is increasing its electricity cost on regular ratepayers, it is ridiculous. If you look at the reality that we are paying a lot more for a lot less electricity now that we did 10 to 15 years ago, then life is actually getting harder. Life is getting worse, and life is supposed to be getting better under a democracy. We were fighting against oppression of one group against another. Now we are fighting against a different group. The first form of oppression was a racist oppression. This oppression is an economic oppression because those who are stealing believe that they have the right to steal at Eskom. Because if you steal, for example, a loaf of bread or an apple or a banana to feed yourself or to feed your family, that is one thing. But when you steal to buy yourself a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or buy a flat in the Burj Khalifa or overseas in Dubai for 10 or 20 or 30, 40 million rand, you're not stealing to feed yourself. You are stealing because you believe that you have the moral authority to take from the ordinary rate and taxpayer because you believe that you are superior to them, you believe that you are vastly indifferent to them, and that you believe that they owe you this, which means you can take. You have almost like a satanic god-like complex. You have an evil, a wickedness inside of you that has told you that you have the authority to do this. And then what do? You drive around in this Lamborghini and this Ferrari, and you fly all over the world, showing the rate and the taxpayer and the 50 million South Africans that you don't care and that you are above the law and that you are better than the 50 million South Africans from whom you stole, and that you are untouchable because you are of a different form of creation. And this is where the rub is. This is where the nub is, that when we don't hold people like this accountable and this type of mindset sets in, then we're going to have big problems in the future, because this is how dictatorship comes. And that is how we have people like Robert Mugabe, who rules for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And we have the rest of Africa where people rule for 10, 20, 30, 40 years because they believe in themselves that they have the God-given right to murder and kill and maim and take from whoever. And because that they are not ordinary, they believe they have some deeper, far greater superiority complex. They believe that they are different from the rest of humanity. And that is a crime against Allah. That is a crime against humanity. And that is how, when people like great demagogues like Idi Amin and Stalin and Hitler rises to power, people ask, but where did it start? How did it start? He started small. He started where he did one thing and he got away with it, and he did another thing and he got away with it. And eventually, when they end up murdering thousands of people, then people ask, but how did it happen? We must stop this type of unaccountability. We must stop this type of people from saying that we can do this at the lowest level. We could have stopped it many, many years ago, but we didn't. Now look where we are. People are stealing the money from the PPE, and I guarantee you, they are going to steal the money from the vaccines. So ordinary people will go hunger. People will sit in the dark. People will die because they don't have access to medicines, because someone there is stealing the money that belongs to the ratepayer and the taxpayer and the ordinary South African, the indigent and the poor. And whether we pay or don't pay, those people are not going to stop stealing. We have to stop them.
Well, Yagyah, Jazakallah for that, and shukran for your time with us this morning. I know we can't go on for much longer, but unfortunately, time is of the essence. But we thank you. We say shukran to you for your time with us this morning. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Yagyah Adams from the Cape Muslim Congress this morning, very, very passionate about what he had to say regarding the problems at Eskom and the ongoing saga of corruption in the country.